In just 1 weekend back in Tokyo, I faced more harassment and disrespect from men than in the last 4 years I spent living in Canada. I never thought I'd be talking about this on a public platform, but I feel like no one really talks about this enough. So here I am. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Emmy. I was born and raised in Tokyo. And if you've been following me up to this point, I just moved back. As you can tell, I'm not in Toronto anymore. I'm back in Tokyo. And today I'm gonna be talking about something real serious. So this video and sort of why I'm making this video, I feel like as a woman living here, growing up here, I have definitely seen firsthand and experienced firsthand harassment from men of all sorts in Japan. And coming back here after 4 years of living in Canada, I find that the problem has persisted. It hasn't gotten better. Yes, people talk about the cheating culture in Japan. That's a whole nother subject that can be discussed. However, today I feel like we need to talk about sort of the sexual harassment culture that I feel like as a Japanese woman who has grown up here isn't talked about enough. So I feel like talking about it on this platform, maybe other women can come on here and relate and tell their story and sort of how actually bad it is. Because yes, Japan is all filled with like anime, all this stuff that's cutesy, but there's a dark side of Japan that no one talks about. Before I get into everything that I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to give sort of cultural context to explain everything so that everything makes sense. But in Japan, we have a thing called nanpa. Nanpa is a word to basically describe to chat or pick someone up. It's literally like going up to someone to flirt with them and like spit some game. If nanpa in Japan, it's more so men aggressively approaching women in public spaces. Nanpa is very prevalent in Japan. It's very normalized and it's very sad. You'll literally see guys stand in public spaces waiting to prey on a woman. This happens every day and it's really sad, but it's like sort of the norm and no one really talks about it. A lot of the times actually these guys will start following you. When they see someone that they want to prey on, they will start following you from behind and start talking to you while you're walking. They don't really understand rejection. I feel like no doesn't really mean no in these guys' minds, but that's a whole nother topic that I will get into later on. To further give context, stalking is a really, really big issue in Japan as well. Stalking and sexual harassment, specifically sexual harassment. A lot of women in Japan get sexually harassed, especially in public, specifically in trains. Going back to what I said about how men wait in public spaces to prey on women, I feel like that ties into the stalking aspect that is very prevalent in Japan as well. They love to prey on vulnerable girls who do not seem like they could stand up for themselves. So I feel like these types of girls get targeted the most in, for example, public train.
満員電車がやっぱ多いんじゃないかなって思います。
They will get sexually harassed, groped in public, and that is an issue that is really, really prevalent in Japan. I keep saying prevalent, but it's such a big issue that has been going on for the longest time. But on top of that, the cultural aspect of Japan that's really messed up is that no one speaks up. If a girl is clearly getting harassed in public, everyone sort of turns a blind eye to it because culturally in Japan, I don't know about other East Asian countries, but in Japan, because I've lived here and grown up here, I know what it is. It's sort of an unwritten code to not make a scene in public. And that includes obviously talking up, like speaking up for someone. If you see something in public that's clearly wrong in North America, sure, there may be bystanders or people who turn a blind eye to it, but there's probably at least one person that will stand up for someone or say something. That is what I really appreciate about living in Toronto for 4 years, because I feel like it has made me stronger so much in so many ways. As a woman, I feel so much more confident to speak up and stand up for myself. Whereas in Japan before that, prior to living in Canada, I was so scared because culturally they just breed you into this being that tells you to not make a scene. And then obviously it's like you're scared. I sort of used to freeze up. Another thing I want to talk about is sort of the culture in Japan. There's an unsettling kink for trigger word, the R word, that is evident in Japanese. It's very unsettling, but videos such as, men groping women in public or men very aggressively touching women when they clearly don't want to be touched, that is very fetishized in Japanese. And I feel like because it's so normalized and fetishized in this mindset bleeds into real life behavior into these men. So that's why I feel like even if a woman says no, even if a woman shows that they're disinterested, they sort of take that as like, oh, I need to try harder or I need to keep persisting. But I feel like this contributes to sexual harassment and public harassment. There's sort of a paradox of Japan's declining population rate, because despite the declining population rate, the sex culture here is insane. Like you'll go to the red light district, there's so many like different services. There's like women standing outside started to promote like joshiko, like those are like other sexual services that people provide here in Japan. This country is very much hypersexualized. I feel like people know that, but there's a dark side to it that I feel like is not emphasized enough. So based on my personal experiences, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my personal experiences. I don't want to go too in depth to it in case it's like sort of triggering to some viewers. My experience in Japan with men specifically has been so drastically different to my experience with men in Canada. In Canada, honestly, like I have told my parents, people around me, I would rather get hit on by men in Canada 10 times over than men here. Because when I tell a man, usually when I tell a man that I'm not interested in North America, they understand and they tell me to have a good day and they start walking away. But even just the way they approach me, it's not filled with disrespect. I feel like Japanese men have such small, the tiniest egos. You show them a little bit of disinterest and they start insulting you, or they start like laughing with their friends and insulting you. Literally, like it's very loud in your face. You can tell these men have no respect for women. It's like an incel, right? That's the impression that I get from men here. It's been almost a month since I've been back. I went out on Saturday, which was 2 days ago. I was walking on the streets in Shibuya, earphones in. I had high-waisted pants on and a off-shoulder top in which I had nipple covers, and plus like I don't have any cleavage whatsoever, so you can't see anything. But that's besides the point, right? I don't like the fact that I have to explain what I'm wearing because it shouldn't matter what we're wearing, right? We don't deserve to be sexually harassed in public or verbally harassed despite what we're wearing. I think I have a video of like what I was wearing that night, but I had a jacket on and I had my hood on. Like it was not inviting to any sort of comments, right? I'm walking with my earphones in, I'm alone. I hear this man go, "Onesan, onesan," like yelling. He's with his friends. I don't look at him. I just keep walking. Onesan in literal terms means sister, like older sister. But onesan is like what Japanese guys use to call on a woman. Like, "Hey sis," kind of like that, but like not like that. I don't know how to explain it. He's like, "Onesan," and I keep walking. I ignore him. And then he literally yells, and he's like, "Bra kiteru," which means, "Are you wearing a bra?" And he starts laughing with his friends. I was like, oh my god. I was like, if I was not alone right now, I would literally swing at this fucking guy. He starts laughing with his friends, but it's the fact that the way he did it. I've never had someone talk to me like that, let alone in public, like ever. Okay. And I'm like, oh my god, like, is that how your mom raised you to talk to women? Like, I never understood it, right? Other than that, there have been countless of times where I have been waiting in public for a friend and a guy comes up to me, starts talking to me and asks to go to the hotel with them. And I'm like, hi, what happened to hello? What's your name? But it's not even just that. It's the fact that that's their pickup line. Japanese people, culturally, they don't say things directly. If they want to get with you, they'll say it in a way that implies that, but they won't say it straight up. They will want to go to a hotel, but they'll be like, "Oh, do you want to rest? Like, we can go to this hotel to like have a coffee or something." I'm like, why would we go to a hotel to have coffee? You know, can you explain that to me real quick? Obviously, there is a whole men staring at you. No matter what you're wearing, I feel like I don't have to justify what I'm wearing, but no matter what it is, people stare at you. In Canada, I felt so comfortable just being myself, wearing whatever I wanted. I didn't care. No one cared. No one looks at you unless you're like literally topless, okay? But even then, like everyone minds their own business. That's what I really, really miss about living abroad. I think my main point here is that these experiences feels very, very degrading. Like it feels very degrading to me as a woman, as an individual. I don't like being talked with disrespect like that. It's like dehumanizing almost. Japan is a very overall safe country, but I feel like for women it's a different story in terms of like sexual harassment and stalking and everything like that. It makes me feel violated and unsafe. It makes me feel like I have to constantly be on edge. In comparison to my experience in Canada, I spent roughly 4 years in Canada. I felt very respected. Sure, there have been times of disrespect, but it's nothing to the extent of what I have experienced here, let alone in the last weekend. If I say no, they usually understand and they fuck off. End of day. Here, you say no 5 times, they'll still keep talking to you. And I think that's really messed up, and I feel like that's behavior that has been bled into the fact of sexual harassment that is normalized in. But that leads me into my next point, which is the impact on women that are living in Japan. I feel like Japan is very romanticized, glamorized, I guess that's the right word, glamorized in terms of like things to do in Japan, things to do, blah, blah, blah. I feel like this topic doesn't get enough attention. Yes, there is a whole other topic to discuss about regarding cheating culture in Japan, which I also don't really understand. I feel like women don't respect themselves in terms of like they are fine with men going to prostitutes and doesn't discount that as cheating, but that's a whole other topic. But today I want want to talk about how this isn't just my experience. This is an experience that other women experience. Sexual harassment is something that literally 8 times out of 10 you'll ask a woman who has grown up here if they've been sexually harassed in Japan, and they will say yes. I'm confident about that. It's something that women have to deal with daily in Japan, which is very unfortunate. As a culture, we like to avoid uncomfortable conversations. I forgot to mention, Japanese society tends to sexualize women a lot. Anime is one of them. Because of that, like, you'll see anime, a lot of characters here, like, they have these massive boobs, and it's like in your face, you know, it's very much in your face. Women are very sexualized. I feel like because of that, it diminishes our value as a woman in men's perspectives. Overall, as a society, culturally, Japan just hates women. Okay, there's a bunch of insults, I feel like. That's my theory. But I guess to sum it all up, what I want out of this video is sort of a call to action for women to talk about this more. It's a problem that I feel like hasn't been talked about. Living here again, I see that the problem has just persisted. It's never gotten better. I want women, if you are seeing this right now, to share your experience. I know it's very triggering. It's a triggering and traumatizing topic to talk about, but I feel like it needs to be talked about, especially in this country. Otherwise, nothing is gonna change. I wanna empower other women. For the men that's watching this, I'm not saying that all men are like this. I'm just saying there is a significant issue that is very prevalent to men, specifically the men in Japan, that needs to be talked about. Call out on your friends' behaviors if you see them talking to women with disrespect in public. You know, don't laugh with them. It's not funny. If you see something wrong, speak on it. Obviously, Japan has so many great things to offer as a country. I love living here, but I hope that by me speaking on this issue and bringing light to this issue, I can encourage women to feel more empowered and talk about their experiences and how this issue needs to be tackled. I just want people to be aware of this issue. I want women to feel comfortable or more open to talking about uncomfortable topics. I know it's hard, and I know culturally it's normalized or it's an unwritten code to not talk about these things, but I feel like me bringing this subject onto this platform, I hope that I can encourage other women to speak on their experiences. But yes, if you watch this far, please don't spread hate. Just please, if you have an opinion, leave it down below. I just talk based on my experiences and what I have witnessed. But yes, leave your thoughts and experiences in the comments if you would like. And I'll be talking more about other things in my next video. Bye!